Hello, gang. Welcome to Sketching with Izzy. Hopefully, you all doing well. We're starting with the dreaded blank canvas today. Tabula rasa. Always exciting to start fresh. Hopefully, the day is finding you well. And you guys can hear me. Let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I'll just be painting. I'll be here. So, I don't have anything very specific in mind, but I was kind of thinking I wanted to do another figure. I tend to do the singular figures in a field. That's easy. It's fun. It's fast. It's good stuff. It's good content. But yeah, after we did a full illustration, that was nice. So I'm thinking I'm gonna do another one. I don't know what of. We did a plain, so maybe I'll do a forest again. I want to get a good background. I think I'm going to go dark again this time. A dark scene, nighttime maybe. We've talked in the past about doing someone leaned in, I don't remember who it was, and mentioned doing a painting with that, a flash style lighting, where the lighting is coming from the camera source. So that it's very unusual lighting. But I thought it might be interesting to do something like that. Maybe we do another monster. Maybe horizon, something like that. Kind of think an upshot, forest. So that gives me a little bit of linearity to work with. Is that a word? I don't know. Don't ask me. I didn't invent this language. And its kooky ass rules. So we can light a ground plane maybe. And I know I want some trees. Let's see, maybe lit from the front, from a flash. Let's warm that up. That's not bad. Not sure how much of the background I want defining this. I'm going to use the thickness of these trees to maybe hint at some kind of scale. So we've got a rough idea of a background. What to paint? So I'm gonna use some chunky brushes. Something sharp. Sharp and textury. Let's start there. See how it goes. Calendar, hi, welcome. Glad you could join today. None of this is going to be in the final really. What we're doing right now is just mapping out placement, trying to figure out the staging for this. We need to hit this with tons of curvilinear perspective. Get that overlap, ensure that my ellipses are working. How was your weekend? Did you get any painting done? Barely painting? That's alright. I'm just gonna transform. So this is just a silhouette. It doesn't really matter. I'm just kind of posing a puppet right now. Oh, that's alright. Getting shapy. Trying to have some kind of figure thing going on. Oh. Sure, I don't want to use that color. Let's put it on a different layer. Joker, welcome. You like how I start with randomness? Thanks. There's definitely randomness in it. Kind of. I figure it'll just lead someplace interesting. We'll just follow that little road. You're working on getting a tablet? You want to do what I'm doing now? Oh, that's awesome. Well, if you have any questions, lean in anytime. Did you decide on what a tablet you want to get? Maybe a little hint of atmosphere here and there. This is just notes for future Izzy. I don't know what will stay and what won't. I don't know how this will evolve. We're just kind of trying to generate an idea here. And as I've said many times, I like to try to get a solid vision for what the painting will look like in its last throws in the first 15, 30 minutes. Trying to get the Wacom 16. Nice. Avid, hello. Is the Wacom 16 the new one? I'm using an old Intuos Pro. I think this is a 4 or a 6. It's Intuos Pro small. Model PTH 451. Yeah, it's just a simple old ass Intuos. I think I got it maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I've only bought 2 or maybe 3 in my entire career. So they tend to last a pretty long time. They're good. But any tablet will do you. Just get something good that feels comfortable. Almost everything has the necessary technology at this stage. Okay, so I've got a rough idea of what I want to do. I need to start thinking about my background. If it's going to be him silhouetting against maybe a hazy moon or something like that, then a lot of this is going to be in silhouette back here. But of course, none of it can be ultra dark. Or it can be, but it can't be nearly as contrasty as my foreground stuff. Doing atmosphere for nighttime scenes is really, really difficult. So this is going to take some careful consideration. I think let's do a new layer and let's just start pounding out some darks and see. kind of how dark we can go. Because it's on a separate layer, I can erase out and do different stuff. Change the effects, change the colors. I think we can put it behind. Yeah, let's put it behind that layer. So we're gonna have these trees in the background, probably some kind of coniferous forest. You know, I like those. I live in a coniferous region, so they're easy to look out for reference. We're looking upwards, but I don't think this creature is necessarily like 30 feet tall. I want it to feel maybe like 10 or 15 feet, not stories, more like just unnaturally huge rather than gigantic. I'm not worrying about losing the foreground figure for the moment. I just want to kind of get some shapes in and figure out basically where I'm going to put my atmosphere. I can already tell that I think one of the ways that we're going to separate the foreground from the background is going to be ground atmosphere, like night mist or something like that. That's all right. But these are all decisions you want to make quickly, as quick as possible. It's a digital screen. It's a Cintiq. Nice. You tried using the no screen one. You couldn't do it. I can't do the screen ones. I don't like them. It takes time to get used to not watching where your hand is and watch the screen, like typing without looking at the keyboard kind of thing. Yeah, Kellender has the right of it on that one. I mean, it just takes practice, but it's just like learning to play video games or something like that. You just learn to separate the control space from you and the experience of working on whatever device it is you're working in. And the more you can kind of negate that meat space and just connect directly with the screen, the better, in my opinion. And if you have to do that with the meat space in between, some people do. They just can't make that jump. But I have a hard time going back. I love so much just kind of thinking, and there it is, you know? Yeah, you should definitely do it. I do notice that when I'm working on a Cintiq, and even when I work on paper, I tend to be more overly careful. So stuff is crisper, it's cleaner for sure, but at the same time, it's slower, it's less over the top. When I just go balls to the wall digital, it gets pretty kooky pretty fast. Okay, so we also need to account for our extreme foreground trees. And these are going to have much more definition in how they might be shaped. And they're going to overlap what we've got in the background. We don't need to worry about that overlap just yet. We're going to be able to hint at that with some atmosphere, a little bit of misty mist. And I think this will be our last big one. So he's kind of out in a small clearing maybe. Okay. All right, we're making some decisions. Once you start making decisions, things start to kind of fall into place. It's nice. So that means this foreground one, we're not going to see so much of. I'm going to knock it back. This one's going to be where it's at, but I'm going to change its placement just a touch. Same with this one. I'll make it go back a little further. Definitely knock back the lights. Okay, now we've got some lighting. This is moving fast. I love it. I like these lines, but not right now. So what we might do is we might do a night raining scene. I love those. I like a little atmosphere, you know? We're back on this layer, so let's just real quick color pick. Let's make a ground plane. Let's see how far back it goes. Let's see what happens with it. I don't think I want it to be snow, although that would be very easy. I'd like to challenge myself with keeping it being grass or dirt. I will probably do the exact same treatment I did on the Snack Boy for this grassy meadow. Okay, so we have kind of a moon spot here. Just like the sun, if there's a bright moon, you're going to have cast shadows. I don't want to fuss with that just yet, so I'm just going to remember there's going to be cast shadows here. Let's go back to this guy. Okay. Again, I keep doing this to myself. I'll paint really dark pictures and then I'm in a room full of lights. So there's a shit ton of glare. I don't even know what it looks like for you guys. You just need to make sure you can use the Wacom 16 with your computer as well, like I'm doing. I mean, if you've got a modern Windows 10, it should work fine. And I recommend having a second screen with that. Don't have it be your only screen. Yeah, so we're going to just start painting the background. I'm going to keep this guy separate in another group. I need to constantly be referencing back to that to make sure that we don't lose. So I'm not over rendering stuff that doesn't need to be rendered and all that good shit. But let's just go ahead and get started. We're going to be applying some logic of light. And the goal here will definitely be to put in the minimum amount of work necessary in order to communicate what we're after. It's going to be a little bit more than a concept piece, but not a lot. Excuse me. That's what you mean? You want to show up on your monitor as well as your tablet? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. You want to mirror your monitor. Yeah, it should absolutely do that. Let's get a little bit more light in that sky. Double check, make sure our guy is in there. Where should it be? Let's do kind of a little bit brighter green. So, have the moon here, pretty clear of the figure, with only slight overlap. We could do strong overlap. We could make it so that it's completely hazy and you don't really see the moon at all. You just see it kind of lighting up the clouds behind the figure, which is, it might be our best bet, just to get the most out of this light. Let's make this a new layer just in case. I want to futz with it a little bit. Let me get, oh, that's a good eraser actually. It's going to be kind of important that these edges are clean. Obviously I'll go in and do a proper drawing and actually make a real figure there that's designed and everything, but we have a rough shape. I don't know how closely we'll stick to it. It's interesting enough for now. It's just placeholder. Let's get back to our night sky. Seeing these clouds, kind of that interesting soft hard shape makes me want to kind of see if we can do a borealis or something. I've never painted one, so this should be interesting. Just painting it out of my head. what a really strong, strange color in a night scene will do, kind of like neon does, is it'll give us a lot of opportunities to do interesting reflected colors. So if we can pull it off, there's no guarantee I'm going to be able to pull this off. Like I said, I've not done this before. Let's try. I can't remember if it's hard edged on the atmosphere side, like where the shell of our atmosphere is at, or if it's hard edged under, and if it's hard edged underneath and it's jutting, the light is jutting out. Let's just go with it's inside the atmosphere for now. Kilrathi, welcome. Greetings to you. We are painting some kind of monster. Because it's me. Come on. This is what I did. This is what I do. So I know any place where the light is going to be built up because there's a narrowing of it in perspective, it's going to be brighter. I know, I never paint monsters. It's true. That's true. I feel attacked right now. Yeah, I am totally winging it. I have no idea how this stuff behaves. I do know that my perspective is completely off, so I'm going to fix that right now. Make sure that it matches my ground plane perspective. Let's make this one bright. I don't know. All I know is that they need to be these kind of ribbony shapes up in the sky. Sky ribbons. And if we're looking at it flat on, it shouldn't have as much light. That's all I really know. And that's just the logic of light. That is not me having any familiarity with it outside of having seen pictures of it on rare occasion. I've actually never seen it in person. I'd like to. That'd be cool. Is there a top edge? Does that have like a... It's fine for now. It'll be, since we're just starting, we'll probably put a couple of sessions into this and I can go and check it out when I get a chance. It's a good thing it's on a separate layer, just in case I want to get rid of it. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Let's still, we didn't solve for moon. Let's do that real quick. I kind of like the idea of it being somewhere around here, because then what it'll do is with it back there I can do rim lights that will create my overlaps. So, you know, I put a rim light on the front end of this arm thing, and then we know that it's in front of the chest thing, and so on all the way back. soften it in some atmosphere. We can always go brighter in the center. So this is just kind of the clouds being lit right now. A little more saturation in there. Fine to blend with the smudge brush, but it's better to blend with smudge brush and an awareness of how saturation should evolve along a gradient. I don't know if this placement will work now that I'm looking at it. I always paint the moon so much bigger than it is. What if we just made the moon his little hat ball, a ball hat? I don't know. Don't judge me. Yeah, let's do that for now. We'll see how it plays out. Okay, so I've got a kind of a rough idea for the moon. Let's do real quick we like the moon. Cool? Nope, definitely go warm. Too bright, says you. Yeah, I kind of agree. Also, while that is a good round, it shrinks too much. Let's see what this one does. That's a little better. Now it would be terribly easy to just go in with a circle marquee and just make that, but for now I like the organic look of doing it this way. As you know, I like to paint back to front, so let's see if we can get a little bit of star field in here. For that, I like some speckles, some tiny, tiny speckle brush. Speckle brush. Where are you hiding, you little bastard? Ah. Speckle brush. You're not going to see the stars so much by the moon because of that haze. We may not see them at all, to be honest, because it depends on how much haze I want to put in here. And what we were talking about before was going to be pretty heavy haze. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, boop. Something like that. Oh, you thought I was done? I'm not done. No. No, no, no. It doesn't matter. Okay, let's just merge all those together. Let's do another one. And let's say so we are super overexposing here in order to capture the light, just like a camera. So I guess it could be a really, really super ultra open lens, or maybe this creature's just been standing here for a really long time so that we could do a long exposure shot. Honestly, none of that really matters so long as you understand the mechanics of how those different things work. Because we're painting, you can kind of fake it. Kind of. All right. Let's jump up a little bit. Let's group our skybox. You know what? That's also unbackground ambient. We'll put the aurora in there too, just to keep our workspace clean. Clean, clear, practical. Okay. Now what we can do is come in here. I think we could probably get away with, let's cool this off significantly. I don't know if this is going to be too bright, but I'm just going to start and then figure it out as we go. So when you have this kind of exposure settings in your camera, what's going to happen is it's going to pick up any light at all, and it becomes really luminous looking, but the parts that are lit tend to look kind of blown out. So even though it's a night scene, what we'll probably end up doing is still painting in some sky fill on the front end. And then please don't forget that there's also going to be, since we're doing a HDR, we're gonna pick up some of the light. We're gonna pick up a lot of the light from the flash. Let's kind of, oops, clean up this shadow just a touch. The hard part with painting trees, especially when they're in deeper perspective like this, is making sure to capture the layers of depth as they go up, which means lots of elliptical shapes, lots of overlap. And maybe some places even where the light kind of peeks through and we can just see the trunk. With coniferous trees, you're going to see more of this at the top. It gets a little more barren. But again, we're trying to paint the ellipses of these branches at the top. So you're kind of doing this. Right? If this is our horizon, oops, this is our horizon line here. You want to paint the segments of the trees as it goes up. So we're looking underneath it. We're getting tighter and tighter in our ellipses as we get closer to the horizon line. The more pronounced that change, the more it'll look like a fisheye. Okay, let's go ahead and let this be another tree here. Oops. I am looking outside at the trees outside because it's ready reference. Let's do our little Bob Ross, Happy Little Trees crisscross with our fan brush. I'm letting these all, even though some of these trees are going to be further back, I'm letting them all kind of just be one mass of value for now. We're going to carve out the lights instead on top. Let's find that tree trunk. Then it's easier. Once you build out the bones, it's so much easier to kind of reference back to that. Might be a little too. Let's grab all that. Again, I'm squinting and leaning in because I cannot see so well against all the glare behind me. Trying to be careful to remember that no tree is going to be kind of like a perfect cone, even though I kind of did that with this back one back here. It's going to be little bald patches. Okay. Think we can separate these? Well, we don't really need to. I'll just be mindful of the values. Let's open this up a little bit. We know we've got a trunk here. See how it's so much easier to kind of just work from the stem of the thing? We're letting it overlap here. That's going to be decided very much by the light that we put on it with this overlap of the foreground tree. Now I'm going to do something weird and just color pick from the background and just try and fill in the background a little bit. Because it's further back, we can be a little bit more flat. Okay. Sometimes I like these trees that have kind of like a little bald patch. Kind of interesting. Ah, bloody hell. Sometimes you just get these weird spars of trees. just want to make sure it feels natural, not too even. Which is kind of a mixed concept if you think about it. I mean, there is an evenness that happens in nature. They've figured out formulas for all of that crap. So I guess then the word is really just to avoid a uniformity that feels humanly constructed, which is, I guess, a better way to say that. This is all allowed to be dark. Now we've got notes for our tree lighting. That is on a different layer there. Let's do So it's easy to kind of just throw down some atmosphere, but if you really want your atmosphere to work, the atmosphere has to create layers of depth, which means it's a lot more complicated than just painting in a little soft brush action. It means that you're going in and then you're now defining each individual layer that's going to overlap, creating greater and greater amounts of depth. I see students do that a lot. They'll just take a soft brush, cloud brush, something like that, and just go all over. And then everything is the same amount of atmosphere over it. So everything looks uniformly the same distance away. That's not how you want to do this. Ozone, welcome. Are you guilty of that? I've certainly done it. No judgment here. Okay, so let's say, for example, with this atmospheric layer, I want to definitely imply that this tree is in front of that distant tree. Well, that's fine. Okay, so we've created one level of depth. This is the great thing I really love about doing subtle atmospherics. Is you can go in and start carving into another layer above your atmosphere and start layering other levels of depth. So it's more than just 2, or it feels like it's more than 2 or 3. I generally only work with about 3, foreground, midground, background, and then everything in between will be a sub-layer, kind of like what we're talking about right now, what I'm about to do, which is, and it's totally fakey, but it works. So the thing that's goofy about atmosphere is represented, when you're painting atmospheric perspective, you're representing all of the particulates that are in the air that are capturing light. And these particulates are being lit. So you're basically painting the volume of space between objects. And that volume is not uniform. So you can have parts where maybe that tree has a little bit more atmosphere on top of it, and then kind of for a little bit comes out in front again. And this is also a great place to kind of put, a couple of nice, simple tree trunks. Yeah, but this is not the brush for trunks. That is not the truck brush. Now you know. I'm going to grab that value. When you do a strong edge over atmosphere, the value doesn't need to be super different. It just needs to be different because atmosphere is very, very soft. Very soft. So if that value that you choose to use in order to create something hard edged in there is subtle, it will still read. God damn, I really cannot see this. Don't mind the close-up of my potato face. I'm just potatoing over here, y'all. Let's do another one. Let's narrow that one up. Let's transform it so it doesn't feel quite so uniform, eh? There it is. There's lots of ways to do this. What we could do, one easy way to do this if you really like to try to do planned out painting, is to do layers. Actually do, like, 5 or 6 different layers, actually paint out the different trees and do all of that extra work. You can do that. And then in between, introduce a new layer and then do what I've just done, where you paint a atmospherics, mists, or whatever in between each layer, and then kind of fiddle with it here and there. That's a totally viable way to do this. I just like this way because it's a little bit faster, and I'm all about laziness and speed. Sweet laziness. Best thing in the world. Now, there's another thing. You can populate like crazy. Just start going nuts here, making tree trunks and all sorts of stuff. Boom, boom. Oh yeah, we're doing tree trunks. Tree trunks for days. But you want to be careful going a little over the top with this, because you can make them too uniform by using the same brush size and by going at it with the same angle. And then the other thing is, you got to remember there needs to be a corresponding top. You can get away with a couple of phantom trunks, but don't go overboard, because it'll start looking wrong. One of the ways I work around that particular thing is I will paint in phantom trunks, but make them really skinny so that it looks comparatively like that tree will never reach the peaks that the other trees have, and thus, you can see only a few little crowns. There's also another aspect we need to be mindful of, and that's our ground brush. Like, all forests will have different, what's the word I'm looking for? Not climb. Is it a climb? Yeah. Climbs, where vegetation is different. So like, you've got your brush, your grasses down low, then you got shrubs and big bushes, small trees, then the big trees with the canopy on top. So you want to be mindful of all of that stuff and include that in your forest. But you got to make sure that you're using the right shapes and using the right density. It can be very easy to kind of mix that stuff up. Let's knock this one back a little bit more. I'm gonna let what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna let this side of the trees get really thick with atmospherics down low. And what that'll do is it'll give me an opportunity to kind of show off some shrubs, small bushes, things like that over there. Excuse me. All of the stuff that you add that's small will provide scale to the figure, the other trees, the environment, and I'm planning that out at this stage, knowing the scale that I planned from the very beginning. So if you'll remember, I was talking about this figure being not 30 feet tall, but maybe 15 feet tall, something like that. So I want to match all of those smaller details to help hint at your viewers' experience so that they're understanding the scale as I intended. If you've seen me paint vegetation before, you know I love using brushes for vegetation that are not really intended for it. Big, blocky, chunky brushes, things that you would normally use for rocks and buildings, I love using those for vegetation. Because you can always add those little sculptural edge details and contours to a tree, but it's really hard to get the nice, big, chunky shape of it. It's easier to do that with a big, thick brush, work large to small. Got whole lessons about that shape. I think maybe we'll throw in some deciduous trees here too. But So, for example, with my scale thing, I was very tempted to just start throwing in deciduous branches down low. But if I put them down low, what does that do? That fucks with my scale. So they should be branching up here, and we'll have opportunities to do that by putting light over dark, and we can do very dark light over dark, like a 10 or 20%. We're at what, about 9 or 8% right now. If we do a 20% over that black, it's going to look really light. So that's another way that we can fill this space so that it doesn't feel empty and just lazy. I'm going to let this center kind of meadow exist on its own back here. That's just going to be open space. And then right here we can go right back into implying some trees. Got to be careful though, because I don't want to break the value key so much. Lost and found edges, no biggie. Remember that what that's doing is it's creating an undulation of density for your atmosphere back there, where some places where the particulates of water or whatever is in the air is denser, and it you know, it's cloudy. It varies a lot in volume. I think we can get into a little bit. Oh yeah. And as it gets darker here in the night, this gets worse and worse, this effect. You know what I'm going to do? Because my values are all here, I think I can probably get away with this. We'll see. Let's do levels layer. Let's raise our darks. And this is just so that I can get my relative values correct, because I can't see it when it's that dark. The glare behind me is just too strong. New Gumroad video coming soon. The science of phantom trees and chunky leaves. I love it. That rhymes, bro. You still got it. Okay. All right. Now, anytime I actually select the color that I need to use, I'm going to have to turn off that layer. Excuse me. Where did my in-betweens go? There we go. As long as the relationships are correct, this will read. We're gonna have to get rid of our trunks for a little while. They were just notes for us anyway. Okay, see how that's too light for that area? This one, maybe we just trace this one down, and this is going to be the trunk to our visible tree up there. And this one comes through the atmosphere just fine. I'm definitely getting a little too low with these boughs if I want them to read, if I want that scale we were talking about to work. Okay, I need a color pick, so that means turning off my levels. Color picking something a little bit darker, turning them back on and watch. See how, even though it's really subtle, that difference is almost non-existent. But that is darker than the values that we were working with a moment ago. I think we can probably get away with even applying some brush here. So here I am using a texture brush that is giving me detail, but I'm pressing pretty hard to keep it chunky. And what I'm after is more like a calligraphic effect rather than an edge effect. Okay, we need to turn off our layers again. And now I need a dark, but not nearly as dark as we were just using. Not layers, levels, sorry. And then over this. That's our ground plane. Knock it back just a touch. All right. Oops, this is all on my ground plane. I want to keep these separate. For now. There will come a point where I just don't worry anymore about that. But having this separation is good. It's like having a clean palette. Okay. All right, see how we've created like multiple levels of depth with really minimal amount of work? That's what I'm talking about, baby. Let's turn off our levels for a second. Strain my eyes into suffering for you. I'm just a nice guy, you know. Let's turn down our levels just a touch. I think I might use the levels as an atmosphere effect as well, so that the background is not as dark as our foreground. Because the relationship, so long as I continue to remove the levels to get color pick and things like that, the relationship will always maintain. Once I start painting opaque on top of the levels, then I have to color pick and only ever paint above it after that point. Okay, so we're losing our trunks. We might as well just turn off that layer for good now. Let's delete it. This is another cool thing. If, let's say, I like what the levels is doing there, I can actually paint in the mask, and I want to, let's say I want to make the darks behind the figure darker. This is one of the things I love about masking, is we can just now remove the mask from that area. Obviously this is more than I intend, but just for examples purposes, you see? So many ways to do the same thing in Photoshop. I love it. All right, let's get rid of that. We can even we could do another layer just to do the same thing. We could do another layer in paint on top on this fresh layer as a new level of overlap. Like we could do up close deciduous trees. Okay, it's always fun. Oh man, total sorcery. Once they added, I tell you, once they started doing masks with the different these I don't know what they call these, layer effects, whatever. Once they started doing masks with those, and then being able to clip onto layers and then clip onto groups, that was it. I mean, Photoshop leveled up like crazy. Yeah, adjustment layers. Thank you. Okay, I want to switch to a different brush. It's going to give me something a little more uniform. Let's see what this guy has to offer. I'm adding the deciduous trees partly for creating visual depth, but also to make it clear that this isn't snow on the ground, because that's a narrative device right there. If you as a viewer are looking at certain kind of trees and a certain kind of plain and meadow with the night sky, and then there's certain colors there and certain relationships, you might read it as snow even though I'm intending it to be grass or dirt. And one of the ways that I can hint that that's not the case is to introduce something that breaks that narrative. So having deciduous trees here with leaves on them kind of breaks unconsciously the narrative that this is a winter scene, hopefully. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the deciduous trees being added in help with our scale, because I really don't want it to feel like it's a super gigantic thing. It's just really big, but not Godzilla size. Plus these will give me nice opportunities to throw down some cool cast shadows on the ground. And everything that puts light and shadow on the ground is going to create opportunities to create more depth, because there's going to be overlap of shapes and foreshortening of shapes that go back and back into the distance. I think it might be a good idea to mess with these levels just a touch, because it's really uniform. See, this is what I was talking about with the with just hitting with like an atmosphere layer and just knocking everything back, is you lose that subtlety of real atmosphere. That might be too much that I've eased it up. Let's go the other direction. Kind of soften that just a touch. See how it's just the for atmosphere, it's gradations, light to dark, usually from bottom to top. And so long as you undulate the different forms that are in between those spaces and undulate the darkness of them, you're going to create instant depth. And then you can let them do things like we're doing here, and where they shadow pool or value pool. So now we know that I need this darkness at least. Fill to that. Ooh, nope, too much. Too much, too much. We'll just do the same thing. Ha! Ha ha! Let's see. All I did was kill some of the dark. Okay. Go right back to the same brush. For both of these, I did a classic lame landscape painting trope where the trunks just completely go off of screen. I try not to do that with all of them. If one does it, fine. If most of them do it, but try and get one trunk in there. It's like hiding your hands and feet. It's the same damn thing. got to be careful. Getting dangerously close to just painting this way too small and thus breaking my scale. Here, we'll just make this a much thicker one. What if it comes back in? I don't know. Might be too much. George, thank you so much for that follow. Glad you could join us today. We're still on the trunks layer, just double checking. Okay. Yep, we're breaking the scale. So I'm gonna merge this down. You know, I'm gonna merge the trunks in too, and let's just transform it. I think with this one, oops. Yeah, this one over here, I can probably get away with bringing it over. Maybe even letting it overlap with my tree of note back there. This is an important change just for my scale of my figure. See, the thing is, I love that little open spot I created in the conifers. But not to worry. Ha! There's always a workaround. So what did I like? Let me check that first, just to make sure. Capture the local color. And I have to remember that this is gradating in value. Again, I cannot see. I'm gonna have to make a new layer. The other way we can do the levels thing, we could just do a new layer. Whoops, new layer. Fill it with white. Just turn it way down, and you can still see the value difference. See how that I could tell that the value was wrong, but I couldn't tell how off it was. So let's grab something that's a little bit closer. Oh yeah, not on the white layer. There. See how it doesn't feel like really sharp. Yeah, and it gets darker as it goes down. I should not have merged down the gradient on top of this tree until I was done painting the tree. That's an oops on me, and just to make my job easier, I'm gonna color pick this in between and just fill that whole layer like that. And then we'll add in the gradient again later. This is just easier. There's no point in futzing with it right now. Okay, this is great, because then I can also see, we can now see the tree trunk, and we're not, you know, being obvious. I love making strokes in paintings that do two things at the same time. So if I can paint a stroke that simultaneously shows me, you know, the root ball of the tree and the dirt going into the root without me having to paint back and forth between the two, ooh, that's juicy. I love it. You should love it too. You must love everything I love. By law. Okay. Breaking some tree rules there. See the angle of the branches coming off on this side, and then this side I'm going real vertical. Mm, that's wrong. Not a huge deal at this stage because we are just painting a silhouette. Kind of change that angle just a touch. Maybe come and carve out a little bit. Ah, tree. Okay, now that we've got some trees in, and because the light, when I paint in the light on the top edges of those leaves and things like that, it's not necessarily going to match up directly with the tree itself. It doesn't really matter. This is a painting where rim lighting is going to define a great deal of the surface of the rest of the tree. So I'm not super fussed. As long as the values are feeling correct, when we get to that detailing phase, it will look fine. All right, so once again, let's make a new layer. Let's grab a big soft brush. And let's once again do that knock back so that the trees stand out over the underlying layers, just a touch. And we can do the opposite. We can even do kind of color pick our atmosphere and knock down bottoms. Push and pull will create our depth. Will help support the atmosphere. Okay, so we've got some pretty good depth and distance now, and that was pretty quick. I mean, hour and a half. We've got it sussed. Love the scale and perspective of the creature character. Makes you think of the reveal and the ritual. Which one was I don't think I saw the ritual, man. But I know I was thinking of, when I started painting this, I was thinking of the witch, kinda. Just a small ghost. Hi! My art looks amazing and beautiful. Aw. Thank you. That's so sweet. Thanks for visiting and kind words. And for that little chibi guy. I love those Shibas. They're so cute and fluffy. Alright. I'm going to take just a little break because my wrist is sore. I've been trying to draw all day. It's been a very difficult work day. Didn't get a whole lot done that I wanted to. Just lots of stumbling blocks. That happens sometimes. You know, you're working on a specific assignment. You're trying to solve a particular issue, and it's just not coming. I think part of it is like, you know, Romanians may have I think every job that you get, there's a guaranteed 30 days off on top of, you know, national holidays, which is great. It's way better than the US. But at the same time, they don't have obvious stuff. Like, no one's going to be able to really focus between Christmas and New Year's. But there are a lot of jobs that do that. Ow. Did you hear that pop? That was my wrist. I got to get one of those, like, hand strengthener things. I've definitely been feeling it. Maybe it's the fact that I'm just in Oregon and it's cold. But, yeah. And I'm getting early arthritises. Am I drawing a specific character? And yes, Shibas are all good boys, girls. This is true. I just like dogs. Dogs are pretty great. Except for mine. Mine's terrible. She's a monster. No, I'm not drawing a specific character or creature. I just started drawing shapes. I knew that I wanted to do a night scene. I knew that I wanted to kind of do something, I don't know, demony or witchy, because I did one recently and it was fairly well received. So I figured I'd do some more demons because I like doing them anyway. I wanted to do the night scene, and I wanted to do something where, and we haven't even painted that light source yet, but I wanted to show something with a flash photography style lighting. So we're going to probably imply a little bit of that. But the issue with doing that flash photography stuff is that so much is defined by what you can't see, what is blown out and gone dark. And so a huge chunk of this is going to be very, very dark in comparison to the parts that are lit. I mean, it could be flash from a camera when you take a picture, or it could be the headlights. Like this is a fairly common kind of horror illustration trope. You can find tons of this stuff online. Instagram's full of it. But the thing that's challenging about it for a lot of painters is we learn to paint with a light source, that's like up above, and you get these nice planes and everything makes sense. But when you put the light source directly from where your image is, your eye is looking from, it's a very difficult. Thank you, Surge Hex. Appreciate that. Aw. Merry late Christmas to you too. Yeah, so that's a difficult thing to map, is a light source that's emanating from your eye or the camera source. So that's what we're going to try and do. I haven't done it a whole bunch of times, but it's always something that I wanted to do more of. So I figured we'd give it a shot. Give it a go. But also, I like to paint one light source at a time to make it clear for students and people learning like how the thinking goes. So yeah. I don't even know what the hell I was oh yeah, that's right. I was talking about, because I do go on. I was talking about what I was painting. And it was more about what I was intending to practice. Gotta get rid of these little jiggly bits. I don't know what they are. I shouldn't be. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. But we'll suss it out. Everything will make sense eventually. We just gotta trust in the system. Trust the system works. This is only the case for painting. I'm not talking about policing. Making enemies everywhere I go. Doing the same thing, having a little bit of diminishing light. Boop. Okay, this is now what I'm painting. So this is an important step for me. What I'm painting down here is below now one level's layer, which completely affects the layer. So I have two options. I can either turn off the levels layer and go back and paint it as it was, or I can start painting opaquely on top of the background. I think I've got enough atmosphere in the background that this is now a stage where I can say, okay, this is done enough. Now I'm gonna paint opaque on top of that. And I think that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna start painting the opaque moonlight on all of the trees, branches, and then maybe even another layer will be the ground plane. I don't know yet. And we'll get all of that figured out, and then we'll start making notes for our figure. Maybe we'll actually draw out what the figure is going to be, because it's just a shape right now. And then we'll start mapping out the lighting from the headlights or from the camera, whatever it's going to be. We are at an hour 40, so we're not going to get all of that tonight. That's why we do these in pieces, so we can hang out, we can see how it progresses. That's always fun. But I'm going to try and get as much of it done as I can. And then, like always, we meet on Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. and we meet on Saturdays, usually around noon, sometimes before. That's for our UK folk, our east of the pond folk. It's still pretty late for them, but I'm getting up at 3 a.m. to do a stream. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. No. I promise you. Okay, so let's go ahead and group all of this stuff now. Grouped. Boop, boop. New layer. That's our background. That's everything back there. Actually, let's see. So that was our sky. We could probably just group. Let's pull this guy out. So yeah, sky is now one layer group, and the tree line is one layer group. Let's go ahead and put this in the top of the tree group. Because there are some things that I can get away with right now. Let's see. Let's do some more tricky tricks. Gotta make sure. Oh, damn. You know what? That levels layer is gonna fuck with me in the end. Can't do what I was thinking of doing. There's other ways to do this stuff. Let's select that, select that. I think that's all of my tree stuff. Did we get you? We did. Okay. So let's go back to this layer up here. Since this is just going to be tree lighting, we can go ahead and mask this out. Boom. Now when we paint, we're just going to paint on the tree layer, and then I can do tricksy stuff like this. Grab my moonlight. Let's bump it up just a touch. And now we can go back and just kind of poop right on top of this guy. What? I didn't tell you it wasn't going to be vulgar in here. Don't judge. Of course, we need to light our spars that come up. I like a nice textured broken edge brush for this kind of detail work. Just a small ghost. Thank you so much for that follow. You gotta go. Oh, thank you so much. Happy New Year to you too. Come on back anytime. So top sides of branches. It's important to be mindful and capture all of those top facing surfaces for something that's meant to have that kind of HDR feel. Because it's those little pops of contrast that are going to really sell it. Because it's on a separate layer, we can always erase. That's the cool thing, is you can always knock things back. So it's better to paint opaque and harsh first. You can noodle it after it's down. Now, do I think every tree in the distance should pick up this light? Hell no. In fact, I will probably delete most of this or erase it back so much that you can barely see light on it. Because I'm creating so much contrast back here that's just not going to be visible in a high atmospheric scene. But those little pops, every now and then, when you get a little hint of it, it adds to the texture, makes it feel more real, gives you that more accurate lighting. See how much I knocked that back? Can you believe that? And remember also that if you have a really high contrast, so these are really dark trees back here, and then I have this really light light on top of it, ooh, it's going to cause me all kind of problems. Let's go ahead and pull back out that brush I was using for the leaves earlier. And where I'm going to have definite overlap of light over dark, that's where I want to hit this. See how that combination of the dark and the light between those two things causes overlap and creates that separation that we're after. And again, still controlling, being very careful to not break the value key back here, because where I really want my values to be high contrast and popping, foreground, right here. Right here, this guy. He's my magic moment. In the same vein, I'll knock these back just a little bit too. Let's go back to our leafy layers. Now, down here in the atmosphere, since we're painting opaque on top, we can also paint dark over light. So down here, it doesn't make sense to light it because I'm describing the form with a silhouette instead. So we really don't need to go in there and do that. How about this guy? This guy, maybe he needs a little bit of, just a little bit of foliage on him. Oh, too dark for that area. Watch that value key. What I want some little bushy brush back there. This is our opaque painting on top layer for our background behind the figure. So we're just painting everything up. Let's say we want to do more overlap back here. Sure. Let's grab a nice dark. See how like edges of trees are kind of poking out of the atmosphere now? You're getting a little like a little bit of the needles and branches coming out of that fog. Let's do it on the other side. Let's make a lone tree out in the distance just to really emphasize this. Yeah. Let's say this guy is in front of the others. I don't need to do any more than that. He's clearly in front of the others. And then once we actually figure out our figure, that's going to drop to the background. I gots to get it. That's how we do in here, yo. Get that. Indication, you are my friend. My one and only. My true blue, my bosom companion. Hey, we want to go the other way. Let's say we want to add more atmosphere. Hey, let's do it. I'm using the same brush. I just soften that edge. Oh, shit. I want to knock all this stuff back. See that? I'm getting brush and atmosphere in the same. When I say brush, I mean that more tree details. Oh, yeah. Let's go the other way this time. Let's go like this. And that, my friends, is how you populate a forest. And just keep doing that. I mean, you could do that ad nauseum. You can create thousands of layers of depth and subtlety just so long as your values are really, really tight and you're very careful. You can do that forever. Let's throw in some fun. Let's throw in some atmosphere back here and kind of imply a couple of little openings in between the tree line. Now we're doing the opposite thing. Now I'm painting the atmosphere in between tree trunks. Just back and forth. How you like me now? What do you think of that? How'd that make you feel? It's the great thing about painting. You can go either way. Dark into light, light into dark. This composition's painfully short on nipples. Well, I think maybe you might be in charge of our nipple icon then. You got to do the nipple emoji, Ermagerd. Oh my God, why is this happening? Rage. Nipple emoji. It's happening. That's you. Get on it. I'm gonna see that in the on the Discord, and I will include it as one of the things you can get. You know you want to bomb other people's pages with nipple emojis. Oh, my friend, have you not seen the emojis on this site? I'd say 90% of them are not done by graphic designers. That's why yours will be brilliant. Just get on it. Okay, I want a ground detail, huh? Yeah. See, you can get everything in here. You can paint it all at Izzy's Nipple Emporium. There it is. Boosh. Okay, so now I've created a great deal of depth. And look, we've lost the feet of some of these trees. Like this big boy right here. He got nowhere to go. He doesn't have a home. So let's plant him somewhere. Come here, my friend. Tree meet ground. We'll just leave the edges rough. This is all still just on that opaque layer on top. Awesome. Avid. You gotta make one, Avid. You both are tasked. We need booty emoji. We need nipple emoji. We need what else do we need for here? Yeah, mine are all like way too painted. I need super simple, funny ones. Okay, so this is an in-between tree, I think. This is not the root. This is not the base of the tree I was just talking to, and that's why that tree's confused. It didn't find its home there. That's not that tree's home. This tree's home. Maybe it's... I need to just go a little touch darker. I want to go darker, but not darker than this tree here. Or we're going to have to actually go and mess with that tree. That's a possibility too. This happens a lot in forests where you get trunk... Oops, I forgot that that's all in one layer. Where you get trunks that kind of just almost look like they are right on top of each other. But their value difference is the thing that really lets you know where they belong. Also, where they insert into the ground. Okay, same thing. Let's just give him a base. Looking outside, it's actually right about twilight here. So this is almost exactly what I'm painting, is what's happening outside. So because I'm painting on top of that other tree, which is fine, that's good. I need to let those values get on top of the other one. Mount it, per se. This is for the kids. Blurring a little bit just to break up my edges. Let's go ahead and knock this tree back a little bit with some atmosphere. Just want to make it really clear that there are two trees overlapping each other. Yeah. Look at that depth. We got depth over here. Let's make a new layer. Let's do another kind of quick atmosphere. I like this one. This one's going to be our moonlight hit layer. So this is definitely going to be kind of a ground mist. You want to treat your ground mist almost like another, like it's a liquid, because it kind of is. So it's going to sit on top of stuff like that and overlap, but almost like it's leveled out. We could even make it tighter if we want. Let's make it, you know, right above the ground. Will anybody even really notice this stuff? Probably not, but it helps sell everything else. When a person looks at this, they're not going to see this stuff in the back. They're going to just see the figure. So you gotta play back and forth between the needs to communicate what the narrative is, that the unconscious narrative, making sure that that information is there and clear to your viewer, and then also not just wasting shit tons of time painting stuff that no one's gonna see. Okay, let's leave that for now. We've painted a little bit more depth. Let's go back to this previous layer and let's add some more tree light. I think we can do the deciduous and this big tree over here and finish out this tree here. How are we doing on time? 2 hours, okay. Not bad, not bad. We're almost done with the background. Okay, nope, that's not the light that we need. If you're curious about the directions that and the angles that I'm painting, don't forget that I have my free lesson on YouTube, 3 Simple Rules to Improve Your Painting. That teaches you the most important rules of painting light. Real simple, really easy to digest. So if you're looking for a place to start with your painting, it is the best place to start. We can go back and clean up that layer a little bit because it's a little messy. Don't worry about it too much because again, this is all going to fall away. This is all going to be stuff that your viewer won't even see. So there's a lot of depth between this tree here and then these trees in the distance, whereas this side, I like to vary that up. If I'm going to have 2 sides of something going back into the distance, but they're going to be pretty much equal kinds of things, I try to keep one side dense and one side less dense, less populated. I don't know. I'm good at English. And what that'll do is create a little bit of visual variance. Makes it a little clearer what you're up to, what games you're playing. I also always, if it's a 1-point perspective like this, I try to put the point off like the center so that we're getting a little bit broader view of one side of that population versus the other side, which is going to be a little bit tighter, a little bit more foreshortened and overlapping so you can't see as much. It's just a way to easily and quickly create visual variety. That's composition. Okay, let's do some lazy stuff. Where's my Where do you start, Mr. Deciduous? Oh, you're gonna like this. I'm making tacos. We definitely don't need anything nearly as bright. We can use the sky. Oh no! Now I see what's happened. That's why it's not painting properly. We are on the wrong layer, my friends. There we go. Oh shit. Now right now all I'm doing is using texture to build up a volume. We're absolutely going to go in with a better brush and detail and stuff like that, but it's getting us a starting point. Okay, I think it's hard to tell. Again, the values thing. I gotta keep repeating myself. You heard me the first time. Maybe this one's just a little bit more edge rather than full volume. Let's grab a texture brush for my eraser. And I just want to use this texture brush to kind of knock back some of this cheese curd that I painted in here and give it a little bit of volume by giving it striation, painting along contours. A lot of this doesn't make sense here. That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go in there, and I think that's all part of that one tree. When it's a rim light, of course, you're gonna see way less lighting on the surface. A little bit better, a little bit more deciduous-y. Deciduous-y? I don't know. Don't judge me. Still on that layer. Let's grab, let's see, I think something like, actually let's do a color-based one. Save. I just watched, speaking of save, I just watched the that YouTube archive of the video that I recorded when my computer crashed, because it happened live here on Twitch when my computer bricked. And the last words right before the crash were, let's save. And I saved. I totally lost that file in that crash. It hurts us. That were brutal. So notice that I'm being a little bit, even more zoomed in on this one. I'm being a little bit more close and playing with the edges more tightly so that there's a clearer variety of strokes and things. That's because this tree is meant to look closer than the others. So this is another way that I can imply distance, is to take the time, go in, and really work that edge. because this is now a closer tree. Dark Matter, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome. A frickin' waffle. Oof. That's what happened when your tablet died. Oh my god. Oh, did it die while you were streaming? It's the worst. Yeah, mine didn't even blue screen. It just turned off. No, it did blue screen. That's right. But when I did the restart after the blue screen, it would no longer boot. Oh, the tears, my friends, the tears. Such rage. You know that video of that office drone just losing his shit? I almost threw my computer out the window. That's the good stuff. Okay. So I know that all of this up here is part of this tree, but I'm going to go ahead and let this be kind of like a bough that's coming forward. Because I already painted it. Why the hell not? But you know what else is cool? Because this is all a separate layer. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No, really. I have a problem. Help. Send help. ASAP. Technology is the best. Sometimes. It's the best at making me cry. My big boy tears. Big brown man crying his ass off. It gives me, like, tech, basically, yeah, things not working the way they're supposed to work, especially things that I've invested a great deal into. Holy crap. Gives me so much anxiety. I got a good friend. He and I handle that specific kind of stress the same way. We just get like all steamed, we get really mad, we get super sweaty, and we just have to take off all our clothes. We're just angrily in our underwear working on stuff. This was hilarious when I lived on a boat. Because I would be cursing, covered in diesel grease. Just a pair of shorts, nothing else, because it's too hot. It's all sweaty and enraged, red-faced, cursing. Some bitch. I am absolutely a redneck trope. I'm half redneck. It's okay. Oh, it makes me so mad. Yeah, I remember one of the worst tantrums I had on my boat. There's from the engine on my boat. It's a big diesel. It's a tractor diesel. I mean, so it's bigger than my desk. It's bigger than my desk and the next table over. You know, I could lay across that thing. It's a huge engine. And that engine had the drive off that engine came out one angle, and then it went to another drive which changed the angle so that it would go backwards. This secondary drive is like a set of gears called a V drive. And in order for the main drive of the engine, the drive shaft, to get to that V drive, I needed to, there is a universal joint, which is a joint that can take the torque from one object that's at a certain angle and apply that same torque almost to another shaft at a slightly different angle. And I had to replace that U-joint because it was really old and busted on my boat, and the bolts on it were rusted solid. And this is down in the bilge, so I'm in a tiny space that's like really cramped, trying to muscle these bolts off with a wrench. You know, the wrenches are like, you can't even see it. They're like this big, you know, a foot, 2 feet long, but I can't get any torque against the bolt. There's just no space. So I was in there sweating hot in my underwear, trying to get these damn bolts off. I sprayed it with a WD-40. I'm raging, shouting. Nothing's working on this damn thing. I hammered on them. It was a nightmare. The moral of the story is don't buy boats. Do yourself a favor. It's a foolish idea. Go buy a boat. It is the best thing you can ever do. What an adventure. Don't buy a boat. You will cry. I did get it off, actually, by the end. Shut up. I did get it off of there, The bolts did. I finally did break the bolt seal. I remember what it ended up taking. I brought a sledgehammer down there where there was no room. I did have neighbor boats like come over and ask if I was okay because they heard me cursing and screaming. Oh, poor Izzy. That was my first. That was my first like 3 or 4 months on the boat before I really knew what pain was. Too funny. You finally ripped open your Cintiq and fixed it yourself. Oh, that's the way to do it. There's definitely we need more fixer culture. Just do it yourself. And there is so much support material now for you to do that kind of thing. YouTube saved my ass when I was out on the boat. I learned so much stuff on YouTube. Again, just breaking out contours. It's all an experience. Yeah, YouTube is great. That said, for all of the amazing stuff I've learned on it, the fact that it still propagates shit like flat Earth just makes me sad. Okay, we're definitely going to have to light the trunks. I think I'm going to need to go in and soften that dark just a touch. Because now I have that light source on top. Oh goodness, what are you doing? Yeah, now that I have that light source there, that's opaques, that extreme shadow difference in the values, I don't need it as much. And in fact, I think I'm going to go back and repaint it a different color. So I'm going to make a new layer, clip to that. I'll just remember to paint that back in. Because now that light is creating the overlap that I need. I could probably even use the same values that are right there on the trees behind. Right there. You don't know what I'm talking about. You can't see me pointing. Oops, wrong layer. Let's go back to my tree edit layer. You know what? I'm going to just let this part behind his butt kind of get really lit. That way we have some lost and found edges with him. Notice I'm not following the silhouette of the tree. This is what I was saying earlier. You don't need to worry about it too much. Just get it down. Yeah. The bad with the good. I do remember, like, I can think of several things that I figured out thanks to YouTube. Like, I learned how to service my gasoline-fueled generator. I had a Honda 2000i, which is an amazing little generator, by the way. If you want to pick up a good, cheap emergency generator, you can't go wrong with one of those. Especially the models from like maybe 10 years ago. I learned how to do everything: change spark plugs, fix the carburetor. I mean, this is stuff that I could never have done before. I never had any interest in it. But I learned a lot of stuff. I learned how to service the outboard motor from my dinghy. Shut up. Little two-stroke. Shut up. Everything about boats is super hilariously sexy. Phrasing. Oh, there's a motor that you use on the boat that basically winds the anchor chain up so that it's up on the boat. So you can just when you throw the anchor overboard, it's just gravity that brings it down to the bottom. But then to get it back up, I mean, you could do it by hand. It's exhausting. I have done it a couple of times when this motor that I'm talking about broke down. This motor is called a Windlass, and I learned how to service that a couple times. So I pulled apart the windlass on that boat several times, cleaning the motor brushes. I learned how motors work, like electric motors. I did not know prior to that. I had to learn how electricity works. I mean, it was a great learning experience. I picked up a lot of basic and essential skills that I think are necessary for everybody. But man, the way we live, we're able to ignore these things. Like how to butcher a fish, right? Like, you just buy the fish at the market, man. What are you talking about? Just like important skills. I learned how to fix my fan. Like I fix all kinds of things now. I've fixed coffee makers that I've bought so that I didn't have to buy a new one. I mean, I've known people that have thrown away coffee makers for less than what was happening with mine. And it was so easy and cheap to fix. It's so much cheaper and easier to fix things. It just takes a little time to learn how to do it. Now, I'm all about that fix-it DIY goodness. I mean, know your limits. Don't do anything unsafe, but try. Could be fun. Yeah. Important skills that we pick up in life. There's a bunch that I still would like to learn, but they just bore the shit out of me. Like, I would love to learn how to do stocks. I'm really, really, really bad with money when it comes to investment and ensuring that I grow my wealth. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. Some people are really good at that. They don't get taken advantage of so easy. I've always been really bad at negotiation. I've gotten better at that. Living on a boat taught me that one too. Buying the boat. Just go do stuff. Just go and do the thing. The skills will sort themselves out. Okay, so let's go back to our trees down here. And it looks like I have some value breakage happening already. I think back here. Oh no, that is this layer. Okay. So I'm going to go back and clean up this stuff that I painted here, because that is not the right color or value. This is why I like, especially when you're doing something where the value and color key are really, really tight, throwing down digitally, when you throw down a layer of white, just set to normal and set the opacity, to pretty low, 10, 20%, it's going to show you the value and color differences a little bit more clearly. Your eyes can become fatigued and blinded, I don't know, to the values and colors that we're talking about. So I regularly will do this, especially in situations where I have a strong glare. It's just, you have to do it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with colors and values all over the damn place. Okay, so we've gone back to this layer. I'm going to turn that off again. I'm going to color pick from here. And I'm going to use that same brush that I did for the light side. Oh, no, not you. You have value differences. We can't have that. What do you do? What do you got to say, Mr. Brush? Are you going to be my friend here? Ooh. Oh, interesting. It's a little warm. A little too warm for me. Nope. Okay, we'll just go with a brush that I know I can control instead of fussing around. Let's turn back on. See that? Now we can see the brush strokes that I put in. We can see how the colors didn't quite mix up, but I can't color pick from here. You're gonna do this, I guarantee it. I almost just did it just now, where you're gonna color pick from the image after you've got the white layer on it, and watch what happens. Oh no! So you got to turn off the white layer, color pick. Don't feel bad. I do it all the time. Blinded. That's true. The one thing for stocks that seemed most important and stable was ETFs. See, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. I am super dumb about that stuff. What in the hell is an ETF? The best is when you forget your brush is set to soft light instead of your layer. Oh, you know what? I don't even mess with the, unless it's for very rare situations. Usually when I'm painting a light source itself, I will never mess with the brush's blend mode. I will always do it in a layer. It's just safer, it's just cleaner, more practical. All right, let's warm up, because these foreground trees are quite green. And everything in the background is pretty warm in comparison. It's all warm grays. And a green gray over a warm gray is going to look even more green thanks to simultaneous contrast. So notice how we bring that back in line. Okay, let's turn back on our white layer because I cannot see. If you've ever taken a painting that you've done digitally, you might have even seen other painters that have done it, and seen it on Instagram or seen it on Twitter, or even when it's printed, sometimes those values get compressed. And the things that you didn't see on the monitor, which are those subtle differences in values, end up getting really popped. And you'll end up with value differences as much as what you see right here, right now, where we've got this really dark black looking figure on top of a background. I have seen it all the time. I've done it myself numerous times. So that's what this white thing is all about, is to double check your value key to make sure that your key isn't broken in some places. Because if you end up with the broken bits, it's going to stand out later when there's compression, like when you save to JPEG, or when you save or when you export to like Twitter or something like that, where they do their own compression. So you only have control of it at this point when you're painting. And if you don't have your values under control so that they're all relating to each other correctly, then something else is going to accentuate how out of control you had it. Guaranteed. You spend 10 minutes trying to figure out what the fuck's... I've been there. I've definitely been there. Those are the things I always check first. I always check now to see if I've accidentally selected something tiny. I check my blend modes. I check to make sure I'm on the right layer. Those are always the first go-tos when something's not working. It's guaranteed to happen. It's just how it is. Okay, let's turn this off. These trees are still quite green in comparison. So I'm going to go ahead and just let these be warm and see how that looks. These need to be a little bit darker, just a touch. It's when you get down into these bottom 20% of values, and the top is not as bad, but down at the bottom, a difference of 2 or 3 degrees, whoo, can make something look way off. And this, I think, is why that is one of those issues that's so difficult to control with the when you do compression for saving, save for web, that sort of thing. So we're just painting across, trying to get a little bit of that coloring, because it's going to be really tough to control. We definitely can't use that one. Yeah, this is about the right value that I want for the trunk. This one is very sloppy because of that brush I used. So I'm going to go in and clean that up a little bit. Much more noticeable when we change the value. Okay, So now we've got some light on the trees. We may need more. Also remember that we're going to try and do a fill light pass from the stars, from the sky, so a sky fill. I don't know how deep we'll get into that, but we'll try and do some. It's just so much easier to do it in silhouette though. But let's real quick do a pass on the trees. Let's do another layer even. Let's just see how this looks. What we're going to find probably is that the contrast between this tree and the background behind it is way too strong. Yep. That's why I'm glad I did this on another layer, because then we can go back, we can just play with the values a little bit. Make it a little softer. Because the overlap now is not about the silhouette over another dark value. Now we have a rim light, and the rim light is doing all of the heavy lifting at this point. So now we can be much more subtle with the silhouette. Do I check my work on several different monitors before sending it off? I feel like certain screens completely change the way it looks in the end. No, I don't do that anymore. I used to. What I learned was that it was the relationships that you're controlling in your painting. Once those relationships work in your painting and you're double checking on your one monitor, if the relationships work, it doesn't matter if it goes to another place or another screen, because even if it is more contrasty or has different colors, the relative relationships will still keep it cohesive. There are times where those values, like I said, the darks, for some reason, the very darkest darks on your value scale can get really chunky on some paintings. And that's why I also recommend if you can avoid it, don't ever paint with true black, not even the bottom 10% of blacks, because that's going to get crunched in some monitors. Some monitors can't handle subtlety when it comes to the value control, or they're crunched on one side. So if you avoid true black, you make sure that your darkest darks are just like 20% at best. You can dip it a little bit lower, but if you're going to dip, remember that needs to be very close, and all of those darkest darks have to be very close in value. If you have one that's just your shadowy, when it happens to me, it almost always happens in ambient occlusion spots where I just end up with these dark spots, and you don't want that. Another way to check it, other than the light, is to go in with, to go in with adjustment layer. Thanks again, Ozone. Grab your levels, and then you can crunch your levels and see what the crunched levels look like. Usually what happens is levels get crunched from the light to the dark. So you can see what is happening in terms of those values. You see that jump of dark here to here? This is usually what happens, is the contrast gets chunked real tight. So if those relationships, and mine are not even there yet, they're not as smooth as they should be. If those relationships are not very close and subtle in gradation, that chunking is going to be really obvious when it gets compressed or on a monitor that's really shitty. Okay, so I've got see how down here on the histogram, I'm pointing at it, you can't even see. Here on the histogram, here in the levels properties, you can see that with my mouse there. Notice how there is this drop off, right? This is my darkest darks. The histogram represents the amount of different values on the image that you've got. It can be the layer, or it can be the total image. In this case, it's the total image. So all of my darks, the image is very dark. Almost all of the mass of the histogram is down in the darks. I don't have anything really brighter than, I'd say, what is that, 45%, maybe even less, 43, 42. Everything above that that's brighter is very minimal. It's almost not represented at all. But notice that it stops right there. It does not go to true black. So this is what I was talking about. Avoid true black. True black is going to make that chunky thing happen way more often. because you can't control the relationships between that black. So notice when I crunch my values right here, because I didn't use that true black, that I don't have that really gross edging that's happening, right? But if I move, if I move that dark so that that my darkest darks are now true black, when you crunch the values, let's even make it middle tone so that when I crunch the lights, you will see we get that gross edging. Boom. You get rid of that darkest dark, you don't have that problem anymore. The relationships maintain, even if the contrast that I originally established as the painting were intended to be dark and everything. If they are broken by the compression or by somebody's shitty ass monitor, boom, it's still under control because I never went to the true dark. It's good stuff to know. Save. Crash. Blue screen. Suicide. I'm kidding. That's terrible. Don't joke about that. This knowledge is illegal to have. Just let people know that you like the channel. Follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm happy to share this stuff and tell stories and all that sort of thing. That's why we're here. I am very, very happy you guys like the show, though. Okay, now back to what I was talking about. We were gonna alter those darks back here because now I have rim lighting on a trunk, which is going to change the relationship of the values and all of the values behind it. Without that rim lighting, that's a clearer indication of what's in front of what. But with the rim lighting, holy crap, we really don't need that much darkness. We can totally soften that. We can even, if we wanted to, throw in another atmosphere layer on top. But before we get to that, let's just go ahead and finish it out and do the rim lighting on all of the trunks that we can. Ayah. Top side. This one's probably not going to get it so much here. I like doing this kind of thing here with trees and, figures, whatever, implying depth and sort of roundness of form and things like that by picking up light in unusual ways. Like it would be very easy to just do like quick rim light like that. Sure, no problem. But by filling up this space with a little bit of light, I'm giving you a slight shift, a variance in how that form relates to the other parts of the same form. May not be always 100% accurate, but it does kind of just give you some variety. Let's get this guy real quick. And then we can't do it on this layer for the other tree trunks, but we will do them as well. How are we on time? Okay. I think we are drawing towards the end of our meeting today. As I said earlier, we will be back together again on Wednesday and then again on Saturday. Let me just finish out these trees, and I think we're going to be in a good spot to hit the ground running Wednesday. Okay, real quick, let's go back to the previous trees. Okay, that's that layer. Let's go ahead and grab a little bit of a light. I think, no, you're probably going to be too sharp and noisy. Yeah, you might be the one. don't need a lot because we're just trying to hint at just a touch of light on these distant trees. See, my light here is darker. Oh no, it's not, never mind. I thought that was going to be a fun relative value demonstration, but no, I'm dumb. I just color picked the wrong area. I shut up now. I don't know what I'm talking about. Don't trust me. Never ever trust anything I try and tell you, because I will always lie to you. I promise you that. Neva Games, thank you for the follow. Ah, my Korean is terrible. Thank you for the follow, though. I can pronounce much better than I can read it. I know O, and that's it. It's the only thing that stuck with me. See, is that right? Let me. God, my Korean's right. 감사합니다. Right? Is that thank you? Brain walnut. I love it. Did I say it right? I'm always butchering everything. It's a great name, Brain Walnut. Well, thank you for the follow. Glad you could join. Too close to the mist color. It's not going to work. Not there anyway. You know what? I'm going to turn this one off for now because it's confusing me. This isn't working as I intended, so I'm going to knock that down a little bit. It's okay. It's okay. Sometimes the experiment doesn't work. What can you do? I love this brush. It reminds me so much of painting like in acrylics. Like just a nice little flat or a filbert. You can get these fun little chunky. Well, this is on that tree layer. You know what? Because this is above those trees, it's okay. We're just going to use it for now. This is a fixed rotation brush. So this brush is always fixed to the angle of my screen rather than my canvas. So if I rotate, it's calligraphic like this. And if I rotate like this, it remains calligraphic like that. So it's great for doing like little contour pickups and things. I love brushes like this for this purpose because it's a lot like painting traditionally. Well, we'll leave that like that for now. Let's go back and let's ease up on the darkness that we've added here. We'll just make a new layer in between. And using the same brush, I'm just going to round out this just a touch. Color pick. Of course, I'm doing this all wrong. My horizon line is still represented there by this strip. So all curvature, unless it's tilting back towards me, I need to have the ellipse go upwards instead. So we're going to start that now. See how lightening this doesn't change the fact that this tree is in front of this stuff in the distance. But what it does is it controls that value difference more significantly because now we have a very strong value difference of the light side against that atmospheric stuff in the backside. Cakey cake. Horizon line. That's right. It's all a conspiracy. Kubrick knew. Doing the same thing. All I'm really trying to do is just knock back that dark a little bit so it's not so dark down in the tree trunk. And because we added the lights to our friends back here, I think we can do this also. Let's lighten the trunks just a touch. And by not going the stroke all the way across, it's creating texture, it's helping to imply a little bit of Z depth by giving a little bit of an arc to it. And also, because I'm not painting edge to edge, it's creating a almost like, what is the word I'm looking for here? It's creating that gradient effect that you would get from something that maybe is shiny, but when it's cylindrical, here's a perfect example, right? Cylindrical stuff gets banding. Well, one of the ways that you can imply that something is cylindrical, even if it is a matte object like a tree, is a little bit of banding like I just did. It's very sneaky, but it works. Just don't let it be way too contrasty. Don't overdo it. I think this guy's been knocked back enough. That's okay. All right. I think that's a pretty good spot right there. Let's actually delete this. We'll do ground haze next session. But what I do want to do is imply notes now. So for the ground, I know I'm going to want to do, let's cool this off significantly. Okay. I'm going to want to add cast shadows. These are not the right colors, and they will not be the final at all. I'm just giving myself notes. In fact, purposefully doing them wrong will make it stand out. So when I see it, I'll be like, oh yeah, there's something wrong here. Oh, that's what I wanted to do. Let's make this one much darker. Okay. It's ugly, but it serves the purpose of making sure that I don't forget to do this when I get all excited to start on the figure. We've done all of the background. We're going to do the ground plane. We're going to paint that up. I'm also going to hint at more ground plane lighting. It's probably too saturated. Let's warm it a touch. Nope, too much. If we go the other direction. And drop the value. Okay, I know that we just made it super ugly, but these are just notes for future Izzy. So he knows where to start and where to take it next. I think next session we will finish the ground plane and absolutely have the figure drawn out. Well, he won't be lit, but we'll have most of that work done. Awesome. Okay, gang. Well, thanks for hanging. It was a good, nice, long session. We got a lot done on a new painting. We will continue on Wednesday again at 3 p.m. and we'll probably finish by Saturday around noon. That's our final meeting for the week. And then we start the cycle all over again. Make sure to follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. You've been seeing pop-ups over there, I think, for social media, all that good stuff. If there are episodes that you're wanting to see and you don't see them below, check out my YouTube at youtube.com/Izzy Medrano, where I am currently archiving all of that extant knowledge. That's right. Hola, Beiras. Thank you. I'm doing awesome. I've been away from Mexico for 1 year, and now my Spanish is dead. Anyway, thanks, gang. It was fun hanging out. We'll see you on Wednesday. Until then, paint smart, paint sexy. I'm Izzy, a professional writer, concept artist, and illustrator. I've taught painting for a dozen years or so, on and offline. Many of your favorite illustrators and designers have studied with me or under me and have gone on to teach in their own right. You're here because, like they did, You want to learn to paint realistically for illustration or concept art. Well, worry not. You're in the right place. Grab a seat. I want you to join me as I explain all the aspects of image making in extremely digestible and clear monthly lessons. Not through the lens of silly how to paint hair or eye demos. That shit is carnival tricks. And you're not really learning anything except an exact way to render one thing in one manner. This is painting mysticism at its worst. Watching these kinds of exploitative lessons won't help you level up with your understanding. Sure, now you can paint sparkly hair, but what if you want to paint a dragon, or figure out how to render a sea of fire, or depict a one-eyed transgender space marine dying in the vacuum of space? Painting and image making are tools of communication, and can be learned by anyone willing to put in some time. Like grammar is for language, light, color, and form literally follow a formula. Painting well is not a matter of chicken bones, zombie crackers, and the ever-dismissive concept of talent. Learning with my series, Izzy's Logic of Light and Color, will give you the tools and understanding so you can analyze light and form in reality and bring it to life in your work. Using this simple system I have distilled will help you harness your art to share your ideas as you've always intended. When we are children, we all draw in symbols. Symbols for our house, our hands, the sun, the grass, our pet lobster. As we grow into artists, we must learn to throw away symbols and begin to draw and paint what it is we actually see. And as we grow further, we learn to paint beyond what we see and what is actually there. Until finally we move beyond this and learn to trim away what is actually there so we voice only what we want. With me, you're going to have to buckle in and maybe take some pain meds, because I'm going to rip out your normal person's eyes and replace them with a painter's eyes. I'm going to restructure how you see and how you understand what you're seeing. I'm going to turn you into a painting machine. Truly, anyone can learn to paint realistically if they can both determine what they're seeing or imagining with basic and straightforward rules. Once you understand the mechanics of light, color, and form in reality, you will have the capacity to paint anything you can see or imagine realistically. After that, the real fun begins. Here are some of the ways you can join me and master the logic of light and color. The very first lesson of my series is totally free on my YouTube